if you're investing.
Investors will.
The podcast for all things real estate investing.
So, hello again, investor community. Welcome back to another episode of Investor One-on-One, where we talk to the leading investors nationwide. Today, we got a very special guest who's one of the first people to personally impact me in the industry. He is known as the Godfather of Virtual Wholesaling. He's based in Florida. He has over 15 years of experience in real estate, and he has changed the game by making it possible for investors to close deals from anywhere. He's also taught over 2,500 students across the country, helping them achieve financial freedom and break free from the limits of local markets. His fresh approach and impressive background in social media and marketing have earned him respect as a leader in the real estate world. Welcome, Cris Chico. I appreciate you joining us so much on this episode.
No, thank you so much. I appreciate being on, and thank you for the kind introduction. I could have said it better myself. Thank you.
Well, it's our pleasure, again, to have you and to learn about you today. So, yeah, let's get started with your story. When and how did you get into real estate, and how did you know it was the industry for you?
I got into real estate just out of desperation. I was trying to make money. I grew up on welfare and food stamps. I originally came from Puerto Rico, and I was trying to figure out a way to make money. And I did everything that you could do. I did the network marketing and trying to sell vacuum cleaners door to door, and none of that stuff really worked. And then I ventured into real estate initially as an agent. And then eventually made my way into investing because I at the time I was an agent for banks helping them sell their foreclosures. And one of the clients that was buying a lot of my deals ended up being an investor and a wholesaler. And then one day he said, "Hey, come work for me. I'll teach you the ropes." And that's how I got started with real estate wholesaling.
Amazing, man. So you've been in the industry for 15 years now, and I always tell this to investors I speak to, real estate is not real estate without the failing. What are some common mistakes you see wholesalers making today that you think can be easily prevented?
I think number one is, you know, my story is that I struggled like many people do because I was spread out among a variety of different things. In the beginning, you're trying to hedge your bets. So you're doing this, you're doing driving for dollars, you're doing direct mail, you're doing cold calling because you don't really know what's going to work. So you end up spreading yourself out too thin. And for me, what made the difference is that at the time, this was way back when I was doing direct mail, I wasn't doing digital marketing. I made a decision and said, "Hey, I'm going to go all in on one thing." At the time, it was direct mail. And when I did that, very soon thereafter, that's when everything took off for me. I went from making a couple $1,000 a month to making in a single month $110,000 6 months later. And yes, the strategy and everything did lend to that. But I think it was one key factor was that I said, "Hey, I'm gonna do this one thing, and I'm gonna learn it like the back of my hand, and I'm gonna become an expert at it." So I think for most people, they spread themselves out too thin. Number one. Number two, not giving themselves enough time. Sometimes people come into this industry and they say, "Hey, I need to get a deal in 30 days." Well, that's a very relatively short period of time. And if you think about this business being an enduring business, being one that you could do for 15, 20, or 30 years, then why not give yourself just a little bit more time to make it work? Because some of the most successful people that we know in our industry, they took 6 months, 8 months sometimes to get their first deal. And here you are coming into the business brand new, wet behind the ears, expecting to do a deal in the first 30 days. You're not giving yourself enough time.
Couldn't agree more, man. Especially in this industry, you need a lot of patience. So, talking about the future of wholesaling, and, this is an industry that you can live off and do it for 15, 20 years, like you said. There's a lot of discussion about, different regulations that are going to come. I saw on your social media, you talked a little bit about AI, and, a lot of investors that we talk to think AI is going to be a big thing, especially for virtual wholesaling, for doing things in the industry. Can you explain how investors can leverage AI in the future? And are there any other opportunities they should look into or other trends?
Well, I mean, we use AI, like say, for example, I think AI is a tool just like any other tool, right? So in other words, let's say that, with you guys, like people are buying leads from you guys. And at the end of the day, my belief is that this business is the belly to belly business. And so, yeah, those tools and AI can make things easier. Like, for example, we use AI. You can use AI to help you craft, amazing Facebook ads and, craft, copy for Google ads and everything else. But at the end of the day, I think that there's a lot of hype around AI. And yes, it could make your business can simplify, can streamline your business. But I think not lose sight of the fact that it's not a replacement for the true nature of the business, which is when you're on the phone with a property owner, building that relationship and being great on the phone. Because I'm sure you guys have two sets of clients. Clients say, "Oh my gosh, your leads are amazing. I can't believe it. Look how many deals I'm closing." And then another investor says they're horrible leads. And yet, how could you have two dramatically different results? And that's people don't really pay attention to the fact that it's the person. So I think that, I would say there's a lot of hype around AI, which leads people to lose focus of the core elements of the business that they need to work on every day to make sure that they're good at, because otherwise, no AI is going to save them.
I agree, man. And those core elements for you, what would you say are the most important things an investor should focus on every day?
I mean, the first priority is number one is figuring out your lead generation strategy and one that you can sustain and that is relevant for a long term, right? You don't want to do something that works this month and doesn't work next month. I'm a big fan of online lead generation. You guys provide leads for clients, and so that's going to be around, for the foreseeable future. So figuring out the lead generation aspect is so important because now, if all you're doing is every single month waking up and wondering, how am I going to get leads? How am I going to get leads? Then you don't have the time or the capacity to work on the other sides of the business that you need to work on. So I think that the primary thing that investors need to look at is how can I what system can I plug into, whether it be yours or ours or anybody else's, that I can get leads each and every single day. So now you don't have to worry about that. And then the next thing would be is now you gotta sound good on the phone, because I think that you can give me an investor that has the most amazing script, but if they sound horrible over the phone, they're not going to close the deal. Sometimes I talk to people and I say to them, "Hey, you got to drink like 4 cups of coffee before you talk to sellers because you ain't going to close nobody the way you sound." And then you could have the opposite. You could have somebody that barely knows what they're doing, but they sound great over the phone, and then now they're able to close deals. So that's number two, is how you sound over the phone. And then the last thing would be is getting really good at underwriting and property analysis, because again, you could have tremendous opportunities, but you can misjudge them. You can say no to a seller that ends up being a great deal, or saying yes and chasing your tail on deals that don't make any sense. So those are the three core elements: lead generation, salesmanship over the phone, and then finally underwriting. If you get those three, everything else becomes easier.
Well said, Chris. Thank you for sharing that. That was very, very insightful. You kind of spoke about, a lot of people are looking at things on the sides, AI, but the real thing in real estate are the three things you just said, and maintaining relationships with both the sellers and the investors. But some things that people would want to ask is, how do you build and maintain relationships with both sellers and investors while operating everything virtually? And if you were starting from scratch, what strategies would you use to build your own buyers list?
Well, we use, with, there's two different types of people, right? The sellers and the buyers, and they also, even communicating with them are completely different, right? Sellers typically are kind of a low emotional state individuals, and by that I mean it's not derogatory, but rather they have a lot of turmoil in their life. That's why they have a problem property and they need help. And so there's a lot of emotional aspects associated with dealing with property owners. But buyers, on the other hand, are different, right? They're it's more matter of fact. So there's two different type of prospects. To go back to I wanted to get further clarity on your question. The advice I give to people in general, number one is just-in-time learning, meaning that if you don't have leads, and if you don't not talking to enough sellers, you don't have a deal to put on the contract, you don't have a viable deal, then you don't need to worry about buyers because you got nothing. Until you have a seller that you have a contract with, now you can worry about buyers. So just-in-time learning is just, hey, what do you have in front of you? Focus on that. When that next thing, like some people ask me, like, "Hey, Chico, how do you read a HUD?" I said, "Well, you got no deals. There's no reason for you to read a HUD, like nothing. You need to go talk to some human to sell you the property." So that's priority number one is that. And then the advice I give to people is kind of more of my rule is 1-3-3. Like number one, your first priority, if you're here and you're looking to get your first deal, that's priority number one. How do you get your first deal? Because the first deal proves that you can do the business. Then the next thing is their third deal. Because then by the time you get to your third deal, you've done enough deals, you've talked to enough sellers, you've been through enough, pain and suffering that now you understand better the business. And then the final stage would be 3 deals a month. I believe that if everybody can get to 3 deals a month, our average assignment fee is 15K. So 15K times three, that's 45 grand, less marketing and advertising expenses. You'll make more money than the majority of the people in the US. And then from there, then you can decide what you want to do next. Because at the end of the day, anybody here can run a very simple business with online leads coming in each and every single day, doing 3 deals a month with high profit margin, low complexity. And to me, that's the ideal structure for everybody to be striving for. And then later on, if you did want to grow a humongous team and get a lot of humans involved and everything else, you can decide to do that. But primarily, that's kind of like the thing I tell people. Just in time, focus on the first deal, then the next 3 deals, and then finally 3 deals a month. Once you get there, then you can decide what you want to do from there.
It's an amazing structure. It's kind of like do and learn until you get to
Yeah,
wherever you need to.
100%.
I love that. So, following up with that question, let's say, people are following this kind of structure. What markets are ideal for virtual wholesaling right now, and how do you determine which areas to target?
Well, we do nationwide wholesaling. So our model is
Mhm.
is different than when most. When I started virtual wholesaling, you did things virtually, but then what you end up doing is picking still a market. It could be a market outside of your own, but you're operating in that market virtually. What we do is we do nationwide wholesaling, which is where we're getting leads from all across the country. And predominantly, we're not getting leads in like Miami, Florida, or Fort Lauderdale, highly contested markets where you're going to pay a lot of money per lead. So what we're doing is getting leads in secondary markets. And many times we do deals in markets that we never even heard of before until the lead came in. Yet we're able to make $15,000 in our average assignment on those deals. And so for me, our model is more distributed. We don't pick a market; the markets pick us. And so, like, if somebody's operating within your platform, rather than say coming in, especially if you're brand new in the beginning, I think this is a better strategy because if somebody comes onto your platform and they want to buy leads in a very particular area, and you have to correct me because I'm not sure of your pricing structure, but typically they're going to pay a premium for areas like LA or some of these areas that are highly coveted. But yet,
Exactly.
if you allow yourself to say just do deals anywhere, and we could do deals anywhere, we use Zillow to do the property analysis, you're going to get leads at a more affordable cost. You're going to get a larger volume of leads, which you need as a beginner because you need the practice to talk to as many humans as possible. And yet, those markets are still viable. Because there's so many tools out there, like, Investor Lift, Investor Base, and so many tools out there that enable you to just to quickly go into an area and see what buyers there are. So the buyers really are not an issue. It really is the marketing. But I think that for most beginners, if you're not, doing fix and flipping, rehabbing in a particular area, I think everybody should be open to being more spread out, and they're going to be able to get more leads, and they're going to have more opportunities. And in the end, they can, if they do deals in a particular area, like say we got a deal in Eden, Oklahoma, and they decide later, wow, we did a deal there. We'd love to get more deals. Then they can say, hey, I want to buy more leads in that area, and they can zero in. But I think allowing themselves to be more open geographically, I think will give everybody more opportunities.
That's a really, really cool perspective. You know what I mean? I really like that. So thank you for sharing that. One of the things you said is it's good to kind of like target everywhere so you can kind of practice, talk to different people, see different deals, understand the different markets. So when you're talking to someone that wants to sell their home, what's the most effective negotiation strategy you've used with motivated sellers that you can share with us?
You know, the most the most effective strategy, I think there's two layers to that. There's the tactical and there's the nuance. At the end of the day, you come in with the perspective of you're trying to figure out what is happening in their situation that they are looking for you as a solution provider. Because most people will go to a real estate agent, but they decided not to. So you need to figure out what is going on in their life that then you could provide value. And I realize that people say that and it's very ambiguous, but I'll give you an example. If you're a property owner and you're coming to me as because you want us to sell your property and you live there at the house and you told me you've been there for 20 years, I may ask you, well, let me ask you this, or typically when you sell your property, you have to be out at the day of closing, meaning when you go to the title company to pick up your money, you're hand delivering the keys. Is that something that would work for you, or do you need a little bit more time to get out of the property? And they might say, "Oh my gosh, if I could have a couple of weeks because that's so much stuff." Well, then that's a value proposition that you can offer them that somebody else couldn't, that they can't get with an agent. So I think it's number one is understanding that. Number two is I think it's building. The second thing that I think would be more effective is tonality, right? How you sound, meaning that everybody here should have a script, no matter what script you have, and every single day you should be practicing that script out loud. Somebody should be able to wake you up in the middle of the night and shake you up, and then stand up from your bed and you recite that script like as if like as if you were like you've been doing it all day long, right? And you think about a Broadway play. When you look at a Broadway play, they're saying the same thing every single day, but they put inflection, they put emotion behind that. And the reason why is because they know their script inside and out. So I think command of that is key. And then, the other parts of it are just, there's things that are nuanced things that you're only going to be able to get after you've done it a while. So you have to be okay with stumbling and not figuring things out. But let's say you talk to a property owner and they stump you. Then you know what? As soon as that call is over, write that objection that got you stumped. Write out what you should have said, what you could have said, figure that out, then practice that. And if you build a list of those and you practice it every day, oh, I guarantee you, if you combine that with, hey, you talked to 30 sellers this month because you got 30 leads coming in, and then you did your script practice every single day, and you continue to add that, I guarantee you that 30 days later, you're going to do amazing in sales. Because to me, it's a combination of things. It's never one thing that makes the difference. It's never the script. It's never this or that. It's always a combination of things that come together to make the difference. And I think that that's the flaw in people's thinking is like, oh, if I only had that one script. Well, if you only had that one script, but if you sound like you got a sock in your mouth, then we got a problem here.
Yeah, for sure. Those are some amazing tips. So, you've mentored thousands of investors, and I could tell, you coach the way you speak, the way you see things. It's already motivating me. So I love that. What's one piece of advice all investors should know that you would like to share with us?
I mean, from the business standpoint, um,
Let's let's do one business standpoint and let's do one personal standpoint.
a business standpoint, you're always what's the goal, right? The goal for people is there's always more money to be made being the marketer of the thing than the doer of the thing. Meaning that if you had a choice, you could be the best, you could have a choice of becoming the best real estate investor known to earth. Or you can become great at lead generation. I'm not that great of a real estate investor. I don't really know how to do subject to. There's a lot of things I don't know, but I do know how to generate leads, and that keeps me in business. So to me, I think that there should be a leaning into figuring out the lead generation aspect of this business because people go down into the rabbit hole of 15 ways to slice a deal. But if you got no leads, then you ain't going to make any money anyway. So, I would argue that if you're a real estate investor and you have a large number of leads coming to you and you don't know what the hell you're doing, you're going to make money because you're going to stumble on money. So I think is a leaning into lead generation, as your primary thing. It's leads and sales are the primary thing, and then becoming an expert real estate investor secondary. And then the other thing is from a mindset perspective is like, and this is something that I myself I think about for myself is that if you think about those people that are out there making a ton of money, the understanding that like you right now are not capable of having that result, right? Because you as a person, the individual, your habits, your discipline, there's a lot of things that are preventing you from that. And so it's easy to see somebody and say, oh, wow, look, they're having this amazing result. And yeah, you can use you can acquire the tactical knowledge, but I think most people don't pay attention to the mindset, and the mindset is really about uh, um, like who you self like it's a combination of things your daily habits, your discipline, and a variety of different things. I'm trying to think about what the best book, I'm sure you heard of this book, Psycho-Cybernetics, which is how you see yourself, how you see yourself internally becomes an outer reflection of your world. And so, part of that is a combination of, yeah, you got to focus on the tactical stuff, but also don't disregard the mindset stuff because that, eventually there's only so much tactical stuff you can learn. Really, the limiter to your success is always going to be the mindset and how you think.
That's a really great mindset. And you kind of answered my next question, which was like, do you have a favorite quote, book, or phrase that's inspired you? So we have, what was the book
Yeah,
again,
I
if you
mean,
could say it?
I'll probably say Psycho Cybernetics is a good book. I would probably say Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within is a good book, that deals with that with that, right? I'm a big fan of NLP, which is neuro linguistic programming. So the other book would be a book by Steve Andreas called Transformation, which is related to identity, right? Because identity is the thing that drives everything. How you see yourself is it just it drives everything, right? If you yeah, so I'll leave it at that. So those are the ones that I would recommend.
Amazing. I'll take a look at those after as well. So we're kind of coming up to our last questions. So let's get this fun question out. What's one crazy or memorable real estate story that you can share with us?
Crazy real estate memorable stories. I don't know if I have any. Oh, they're all crazy. I'm trying to think about if I had a crazy. I don't have, because here's a reason why. Because and this is a learning lesson for you guys. When I hit my stride with back at the time direct mail and I figured out the marketing, I figured out very quickly that I didn't like to talk to these people, these sellers that drive you crazy. And so very quickly, this is way back when in like 2005 and six, I ended up getting a couple friends of mine and I said, hey, I can bring in the leads, I can teach you how to do them, but I do not want to talk to these people. And they're like, hey, I'll talk to them. And so for me, I am not in the trenches every day because I have people, calling the sellers and speaking with the sellers and everything else. I think that I would say not to underestimate the unreasonableness of people. Because a deal is never done until I say a deal is never done until the title company says it's closed and you get your wire. Until then, you sleep with one eye open. But we've had a variety of different things from sellers. Like a lot of times, the most difficult transactions is when you really have to be a babysitter to the seller, and you have to tell them you have to like we've had ones where we have to rent a hotel room to get the seller out of the property, and that. But in terms of like a crazy ass real estate story, I'm afraid that I don't have one just because I don't talk to that many sellers right now.
Sure, I still appreciate that. And finally, what's next for you, Chris? Are there any exciting projects, goals, something personally that you would like to share with us that's coming up?
No, I mean, on a personal level, I think I'm on a quest more to. I'm a little bit older, so I'm much older than you. I don't know if you could tell. Those Mexican growth hormones do amazing. Just kidding, but I'm 53. So, as I go into my next adventure, right, my next 20 years of my life, I'm more interested in uh, who do I need to become, right? Who do I need to become in order to have my next best adventure. And I think that the thing I'm digging into is more of deeper into neuro linguistic programming, NLP, stuff related to like that book I recommended, Steve Andreas. There's the typical Bandler and stuff like that. It's just learning and understanding how my brain works, right? And how you make decisions. So that, a lot of times when you face with a situation, let's say you have a habit that you want to break. Many times it's unconscious. You do that thing and you feel bad about it, but you can't control it. And then at some point, you get to the point where now you're seeing yourself doing that thing. You can't control it still, but now you're above it and you're able to analyze it. And then you get to the point where now you can then, make changes, right? And making
Mhm.
changes is learning how the operating system of the brain works so that now you can make changes to yourself and then you can easily see other people's issues and then be able to help them. So for me, is my next adventure is getting a better understanding of my brain and how it works so that way I can help myself, but I could also help others as well.
Amazing. Sounds interesting and very, very exciting. So good luck on that. And Chris, thank you so much again for sharing your insights, experiences with us today. It's been a big, big pleasure having you on Investor One on One. If our investors want to connect with you or learn more about you, how can they find you?
Best way to do that, it would be to go and find me on YouTube. If you search for my name, Cris Chico, CrisChico, no H on the Chris, you can, but Google will figure that out. So you go to my YouTube channel, watch some of my videos, and if you're interested, you can always reach out. There's always links in the description if you want to reach out and want to get some help from us.
Amazing. And to our audience, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay connected for more interviews with the nation's top investors. Until next time, keep investing wisely and stay motivated. Thank you, Chris.
No problem. Thank you.